BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello there and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. I'm MacLeod, and with the dust barely settled after the defeat in Zagreb, the next daunting looking fixture for Scotland is just around the corner.
It's good play by Mendes down the left, he gets the ball in, Ronaldo's there and he scores! Right on cue!
3 Nations League games, 3 defeats, just 1 win in 15 now, and Cristiano Ronaldo and co are in town. But is there light amid the gloom?
With the backing of the home support here, hopefully we can find another level that gets us the positive result that we all want.
And what sort of opposition will the Portuguese be this time around?
I think they'll be after a fast start, to be honest, try and catch Scotland out, but Scotland don't know exactly what Portugal are rocking up to town with.
The Scottish Football Podcast.
Hello there, thank you very much for listening and downloading and streaming, and hopefully you're subscribing as well. Much to discuss on the podcast today as we look ahead to the big match this evening against Portugal at Hampden. I'm joined by Jordan Campbell from The Athletic, and we're also going to be joined by Portuguese football expert Aaron Barton as well. I know Aaron's very excited about the match and indeed Portugal's Nations League campaign as they look to top the group, and with it they will quite clearly go into the Nations League finals and be in pot 1, as you would expect, for the World Cup qualifying draw. And we'll have a little chat with Aaron as we go along. But firstly, Jordan, we've got to, I suppose, just before we look ahead to the Portugal game, we kind of got to have a look back at Zagreb on Saturday evening, a result which, you know, I think Steve Clarke certainly felt, and many in the Tartan Army felt was a little bit unjust. Kind of maybe felt Scotland deserved something from the game, but unfortunately what it has done is it's left this run at 1 win in 15. It's 4 defeats in a row. It's 9 competitive games now without a win. It's a dreadful run. Did you see shoots of recovery in that performance?
I did, and it's the first time in a while that I've come away from a Scotland game thinking, okay, there looks to have been a little bit of an evolution there. Because that's the one thing I was very critical of after the Euros was if you go to Germany and you underperform and you don't get the results, that's one thing, because it was a fairly difficult group, but it was the way that we were so passive in possession and so, you know, safety first. There was just a lack of ideas, I thought. But against Croatia, you know, as you say, we created so many dangerous opportunities where the final ball was sometimes poor, but we actually did create enough chances, clear goal scoring opportunities to have scored 3 or 4 the other night. And I think just the way it ended, you know, with like a marginally offside VAR call, it was a real gut wrencher. And I think when your luck's out, your luck's out. But I think you need to step back from the stats for a moment. You know, I think after the Euros, you had to sort of clean. If Clarke was going to continue, you have to view it as a clean slate and assess whether he's actually changing things. And I think he has switched back to back 4. I think you look at the squad, there's very little he can do really in terms of personnel. You know, decimated at right back with Hickey and Patterson out. We've got Conway, who was going to be a bit of fresh legs, out as well. McGinn's out, the talisman for so much of the time. There's limitations on what he can actually do to change things, but I did think that Gilmour in particular, you saw that clearly he was looking to play forward. There was movement rather than just going long all the time. So I thought there was progress there, and I think if they'd have managed to sneak that draw at the end, everybody would have been saying, okay, that looks like maybe they've turned the page and there's something to build on. But yeah, these numbers are obviously difficult to get over, but we are in the Nations League Group A, so that is what makes it difficult. You know, that's your reward for having a great campaign the last time, is that you're facing Portugal now. I think they've got to try and keep their head up, which is what Robertson and McTominay and all the guys the last few camps have been saying, is that they still feel they're making progress. And I guess, you know, that's obviously players speaking after games. You know, you would say they've got to say that, but it does feel that they genuinely do believe that they can turn the corner. But I think that would have been a massive bit of momentum to go into a home game now and actually have something behind you, you know, something tangible to build on. But Portugal, you know, I sometimes think some people are unrealistic in terms of, if you take an early lead against Portugal like we did the last time, what else are you going to really do apart apart from sit back and try and soak it up. It was coming for a long time and we did ride our luck, but that's natural what happens when the game state changes like that. So, I think Scotland have got to be realistic, is that we're not going to dominate the ball against Portugal. Even people like me who are calling for Scotland to be a bit braver on the ball, I would like to see us actually try and play through Portugal at times. But, there's got to be variety. And I guess, if it's Dykes or Adams up front, they are going to have to hold the ball up and they might have to play it into their feet for 40, 50 yards. But that was something that I actually thought Scotland improved against Croatia was John Souttar's distribution. Defensively, he's had his moments for Rangers last couple of years where he's been caught. But I thought actually on the ball, there looked to have been work on actually trying to play a control pass into the striker rather than just launching it and having absolutely nobody around Dykes. So that was another thing that I think you can sort of hang your hat on, is that there did look to be a little bit of improvement there. But whether I'm searching for things too much, could be argued. But I think there's definitely 2 or 3 things that looked like they were trying to be a bit more progressive and a bit less direct.
Aaron Barton joins us. Aaron, how are you?
All good. Thanks for having me on.
It's a massive game for both nations, clearly. Scotland against Portugal. It's 7:45 kickoff at Hampden Tuesday evening. Match day 4 of Nations League A, and it's Group 1. How do we see this game going then, Jordan?
Well, I think Scotland are probably going to be on the back foot and look to counter, but I would say that, the addition of Ben Doak into the team gave Scotland a different dimension that they've been lacking. So I think you can maybe have a bit more success on the break now, where even Christie can carry the ball on the left. And then we saw Ryan Gauld obviously come on, who's got a final pass, and who Aaron will obviously know for his time in Portugal as well. So I think there is a little bit of freshness to the team, and there is a bit more pace and directness that they can actually carry a threat. Because I guess the problem with Scotland so many times against these big teams, and it probably started a year ago against England when this terrible run started, which is we got pinned back and we had no way out. And I guess that's the problem, the trap that we fall into so often, is that we sit deeper, and then we have no way of getting out. So Adams probably gives you a bit more mobility up front. So I think if you can put Doak in again, I'm sure Clarke will be, not wanting to absolutely overuse him at such a young age. But even though his end product lacked at times against Croatia, I thought his directness and his ability to go by players did really add something to the team. And Christie coming in off the left as well sort of opened it up for Robertson to overlap. So there's a couple of things that I think Scotland could do on the break, but my concern defensively would probably be Leao against Ralston. We've seen the first game that was a problem. A lot of things coming down that right left-hand flank for Portugal. So that was where not one place that I'm scared of. There's a lot of places that I'm apprehensive about, but that's the one in particular that I think we need to be careful and make sure that maybe we've got someone shuttling over to try and give a bit more protection.
So much pace in the wide areas to Portugal. Aaron, I'm just wondering what the Portuguese opinion was of the Scotland performance in Lisbon and how it kind of compared to some of the other teams that have visited Portugal over the years. What was the opinion of it, and what did you make of the Scotland performance?
To be honest, I think, it just massively frustrated Portugal. I think, especially, when you look at the numbers and the statistics, sometimes they don't tell a whole story of a game, but when a side scores first, especially when you score early on, I think it was inside the first 8 minutes, and then you're trying to get into the game, but you grow more frustrated as the sort of half's going on. That first half, I think Scotland had 1 shot and scored, Portugal had 16. But then when you look at the actual quality of the chances, they had 1 big chance each, really, which is, for all those efforts, you'd think you'd try and get something a bit more substantial. But I think Scotland's game plan there, as Jordan touched on it, what more are you supposed to do? If you score early on, it's sort of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because if you score early on, you're naturally tempted to sit further back and try and frustrate the opposition. And against someone like Portugal with pace in wide areas and quality in the middle, and some of the names that will be trotting out, you just think at any given time they can flip a game on its head. Obviously, Portugal worked their way into the game and did create some quality chances, but it was looking like this could be a real night of frustration. And then obviously, the man that's constantly spoken about whether he should be in the side or out the side, that's 3 consecutive games now where he scored the winner in all 3 of the games. So it's sort of like, unless someone else is going to step up to the plate, he scored the winner in the 2-1 against Croatia, the winner against Scotland, and then the other night he made it 2-1 against Poland. Just by being in the right area. I mean, that goal was all Rafael Leao's work, who, again, Jordan touched on. If he has a night where he really feels on it, because sometimes he can drift in and out of games, to be honest, and is a bit more consistent with his end product, then he can be a real danger man. But yeah, I think it was a good performance in terms of coming back from 1-0 down. It actually showed a little bit of Portugal, you can't have it all your own way. Sometimes you will go 1 down, you'll have to dig in and continue playing the way that you know how. And they did that. And, on another night, that could have easily, went Scotland's way, ended in a draw. But I think Ronaldo was there to bail the lads out one more time.
Does he start again at Hampden? I think it'd be the first time he's played at Hampden, despite his long and illustrious career.
Yeah, he should do. He's actually... in the last sort of couple of matches as well, he's had his minutes managed a bit more. I think that is something that after the Euros, there was this big clamour of, at times Portugal, you could really tell that they were just playing towards Ronaldo, and when he weren't performing, it was almost like you're playing with a man light. Is some of the comments that were being made. He come off with half an hour to go against Poland, and then he was subbed off again in the previous game. Diogo Jota's been coming on, taking his place. But I think he'll be in the starting lineup. It'll probably, maybe looking back and thinking when he has been starting, he's been maybe staying on the pitch for too long in the Euros. Just, when you get to 60, 65 minutes and thinking, right, you need something fresh. But then also the management team are probably looking at it and thinking, if there's one player you want to leave on, if there is a big chance with 5 minutes to go, it's him. So it's how do you balance it? So yeah, I do expect them to be starting. He's trying to get a real settled front three with Rafael Leao on one side and Pedro Neto on the other, who played well the other day. The fullbacks are coming into form. Nuno Mendes is in as good a form as I can remember him being in, to be honest. Gives Portugal real width. Just really attacking, obviously a capable defender as well, but Portugal will be looking to get forward in numbers and really get shots off and probably try and get an early goal, avoid a repeat of what happened last time, because that was in Lisbon. This time around it's in Hampden Park. You go 1-0 down, or even if the game still stays 0-0, there's always that fear that Scotland could nick something on the break, and that is, that's a real fear for a team like Portugal who do try and pour forward so many players. So I think they'll be after a fast start, to be honest, try and catch Scotland out, but Scotland will know exactly what Portugal are rocking up to town with.
Talking about Leao and Neto and Ronaldo, Jordan, one real plus point on Saturday was Ben Doak, who made his first start. Steve Clarke was kind of suggesting afterwards that he might not start this game. He was kind of talking we shouldn't be expecting too much from him. But my goodness, see the touches, the runs he was making. He gave Josko Gvardiol as difficult a game as Gvardiol has had in the last couple of years, I thought.
Yeah, I think you watch Gvardiol for Man City, and I don't think I've ever seen him look so flustered. Even on the ball, like one of the things you worry about with a 17-year-old is, can he do the defensive side? Is he going to cope athletically? Well, I think he proved both of those things, in that his positional sense was pretty decent throughout the whole time. And I think the way he pressed as well, you could really see that sort of Liverpool education had been drilled into him. So I think it allows Scotland to be a bit more aggressive off the ball, having pace like that and having a dynamism on the break with Doak. I think a few times he probably showed his youth in terms of his decision making. Probably 4 or 5 times I would say he got into the box and he did pause to look up, but he sort of rushed his pass, or he never quite found his man. But I mean, these are things that are going to happen. I think what we've not done enough in Scotland is put in these boys early, maybe a year or two before you probably want to make them regular starters, but it's what other countries do, it's what Croatia do, and it works for them. So I think you've got to give these boys minutes, expose them to the top level, and they'll learn on the job. That Scotland aren't blessed with loads and loads of players playing at that level who can do what Ben Doak can do. So you've got to be brave and give them the chance. So you look at what the other options are for Steve Clarke, really, and there's no one else who's really got pace. You get arguably Lewis Morgan's the only other real sort of winger / dribbler in the squad. So it's something we've lacked for years, and I think he sort of fills a gap. We're probably still missing that superstar forward that Wales had with Gareth Bale and even Ramsey for a few years at Arsenal. So I think it's still the one thing we're missing. But if Doak over the next 4 or 5 years can develop into the player we all hope, then I think that should give Scotland a lot of promise on that right flank.
I'm sure Steve Clarke won't be giving too much away at his pre-match media conference, but let's hear a little bit of what he had to say when he addressed the press on Monday.
Players are good, ready to go again. There's absolutely no issue whatsoever with that. Like I said before, the players understand where we are in the process. They understand what they have to do to get results, and as far as I can see, and hopefully as far as everyone else can see, they're all on board with that. They understand that we're playing difficult opponents. They understand also that the squad could be stronger. Everyone knows that. All these things are there to be seen. I don't speak about it too much because I feel it's disrespectful to the boys that are in the squad. We have to concentrate on who we have here, and we have to go out against Portugal, and we know we have to be very good at everything we do in the game, and hopefully we can get the result that might just change the whole mood about the place. The crowd also have to believe in their team and their players, and I don't see any reason why they shouldn't believe in this group of players. We've got players who are, I think Darryl's just told me, we've got 3 players that are inside the top 10 cap appearances for their country. After 20 years in the international wilderness, this group of players have been to 2 major tournaments. They've got promotion to this top level, the Nations League. So I don't understand why people would be doubting about this group of players. It's a tough moment, there's no doubt about it, but we believe in ourselves. As has just been mentioned, with the backing of the home support here, hopefully we can find another level that gets us the positive result that we all want. What we have to do is make sure that we maximise the moments when we have the ball. Something that we do speak to the players about is trying to improve our ball possession when we play against the top sides. We did that against Croatia, and I think you see the results of that was a really strong performance away from home. Hopefully we can improve the ball possession at home against a pot 1 team, and we get a similar performance and a much better result.
Steve Clarke there, and one quote from last week that was quite interesting, I thought, John Carver, Steve Clarke's assistant there, talking about suffering just now, kind of short-term pain for long-term gain. I kind of understand where they are with that now, and there's been a lot of talk about, should Clarke be continuing in post just now? I've personally seen enough in the last few matches to suggest that there could be better times to come. I mean, a lot of it's going to come down to the World Cup draw. That's going to be in the lap of the gods, whether in pot 2 or pot 3. But did you kind of understand that? And do you see the positivity that they clearly do behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think I was critical of Steve Clarke after the Euros. I think if he was going to continue, he had to commit to changing something, because clearly it had gone stale and it wasn't working. I mean, we'd based our whole success on a defensive solidity, and that had evaporated. But I do get what Carver is saying in terms of suffering, because before the Euros we played Netherlands and France and England. We played the top level teams to expose ourselves to what it's like at that level. And I think even this Nations League as well, the Euros, these are the top tier teams that we're playing against. So, you look at the record, 15 games, there is some context to that, and look at the number of top 10, 15 teams in the world that we're up against. But I do think there can be learning curves that over the next year or two, especially going into this World Cup, can stand them in good stead. Because as much as we probably look at Steve Clarke and think he's probably got one more qualifying tournament in him to get to the World Cup, you look at the players as well and you think that Euros there and this World Cup coming up is probably their peak years together when you look at the core of your team. Players like Gilmore and Patterson Hickey have got another few, but McTominay, Christie, Dykes, Adams, Robertson, Tierney, all of these guys have probably got 2 or 3 years left at the very, very top level before they reach their 30s. So I think for Scotland, this next year or two, building up to the World Cup, is got to be the time where they absolutely max out what they can achieve together. So I think that you look at Gilmore and McTominay at Napoli, there's got to be more recognition of what style these players play at the club level. And I think, as you say, there did look to be an appreciation of that for Clarke, to try and give Gilmour a bit more, take the shackles off him and actually give him players to play the ball off of, because Gilmour's not going to run by you. Neither is McTominay's not going to run by players. They need players to play off of. And I think that you noticed that with Doak, you noticed that with players coming short to him, Christie. It did look to be a bit more catered around Gilmour, who I think we should be building a team around.
How good a place, Aaron, is Portuguese international football just now? I just wonder where they are in the eyes of the fans under Martinez.
As I say, there was a clamouring for years. Obviously, Fernando Santos and everything that he did for Portugal, won the First Nations League, won the European Championships. But there was this sort of feeling that they were being stifled almost, in that he was pragmatic, defensive at times, and that there was this sort of new generation of players at the time. It was, the Rafael Leao's coming through, that Portugal should just be so much more expressive. Then they brought in Roberto Martinez, who didn't have the greatest of times with Belgium, but obviously you know what you're going to get in terms of Roberto Martinez team. As an Evertonian, I was well aware of his pros and his cons with his management, and you are going to get a team that will sort of pour forward and that will look to try and play real attacking football. Setting up a defence sometimes is a bit of a weakness of his, but there's still a feeling that there's a lot more to come, that players who play at such a high level, it sounds simple. Portugal have just got these quick, dynamic attacking wingers, get them into wide positions, get good footballers, the likes of Vitinha, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, Ruben Neves, get them on the ball in midfield. And, if Ronaldo is going to start, if you give him the service, he's shown over how many years that will put them away. So there's an expectation there with Portugal now that never used to be there. It's only really when they got into that sort of early 2000s, and even still then 2004, 2006, 2008, and then this sort of generation from 2016 onwards, there's now this expectation that no, we want to get into the the final four of a tournament, which had never been the expectation. It's a country that's got 11 million people. That it's the expectation now is that that should be up there competing with with the likes of France and Spain, Germany, and teams like that. So the expectation comes with it, but so does the disappointment.
Just before we wrap things up for today, guys, ahead of the big match, let's get predictions from you. Jordan, how do you see it going?
So I think we'll score. I'm going to go 2-2. 2-2.
Aaron, what do you think?
I'm going to go 3-1 Portugal. I think Scotland will score. But I think if Portugal get an early goal, they might just have too much. But yeah, I was and ahhing between 2-1 and 3-1, but I'm going to go with 3-1.
I think that was the score the last time they played at Hampden. It was friendly October 2018. It was, yeah. Yeah, Stephen Naismith scored the Scotland goal.
That's a shirt from that match.
Right, okay.
That's from Hampden. Yeah.
Very good. You guys can't see it because you're listening. I can assure you it's there right in front of us. Listen, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Scotland looking to wound Portugal and try and beat them for the first time since European Championship qualified in March 1980. Dalglish, Gray, Gemmell and Archibald scored the goals for Jock's Dean side. Can Scotland finally get that long-awaited competitive victory? But we do have to wrap things up. My thanks to Jordan Campbell and to Aaron Barton, and thank you for listening. Remember, full live commentary of Scotland against Portugal on BBC Radio Scotland with Sports Sound on the air from 6. Extensive coverage and live updates at the BBC Sports Scotland website and the mobile app too. And the Scottish Football Podcast is of course here every day, so if you haven't done so already, subscribe on BBC Sounds. Bye for now.
This is the shocking moment English football has been dreading.
My name is Moses Swabu, and I used to be a professional footballer. But then I got in deep with organised crime and became a match fixer operating in the English League.
A match-fixing investigator has highlighted 2 matches he says appear to have suspicious betting patterns.
How honest are you going to be with me?
This is 100%. Join me for Sports Strangers Crimes presents Confessions of a Match Fixer. Listen on BBC Sounds.